Thanks for attending our working group meeting. Very sorry for the time confusion. So let's see. I dropped a link in the channel for the agenda today. It's a light agenda. I'll share my screen just so you all can see what I'm looking at. Let's see. I guess first I just wanted to thank Jeff and Dominic, who's not here, for being very on top of issues and PRs. I was reviewing a bunch of them recently, just going through them, and I feel like Jeff is responding to half of them and Dominic's responding to the other half. So it's nice having such dedicated community members. So thank you. Yes, please feel free to add any items to the agenda that you would like to talk about. Jeff, I was wondering if you would be okay with it sharing a dynamic ASG update about like where we are now, what we're thinking about doing next.
Sure. Let's see. We've made a few releases to CF Networking and Silk that support dynamic ASGs with bug fixes and bug fixes. 3.3.0 should be great to use ish. We're looking into some performance issues. There's in extremely high scale and situations, it does end up causing or exacerbating a memory leak in CAPI. So we're looking into some solutions there, possibly coming up in the next few months. And yeah, curious about where to focus our performance enhancements. And then CF deployment, I think there's a PR to it that should be merged or soon merged at this point that would enable it everywhere. But I'll double check on that. Looks like it's merged according to the thumbs up from Carson.
Today.
Sweet.
Nice. So default was merged today. So next CFD release will have this on by default.
And I'm curious if anyone is able to share metrics about the number of IP tables roles, the highest number of IP tables roles they've seen on a cell in any of their environments. If that's something you'd be able to provide, I can show you some metrics to find it or give you some commands to run on a cell if that's a thing. But yeah.
Yeah, by the way, Geoff, I think that we should be able to give you support on that one, but we for sure will need some kind of a guidance how to set up and extract those metrics. So we have large deployments, so most probably if we kind of are looking for some kind of a performance things, so most probably we should be able to extract something.
Awesome, thank you. I will reach out on Slack.
Yep.
Hey, awesome. It's very exciting to finally see this work getting done and out and, I don't know, focusing on big features. I thought I could give the NATS update, NATS version 2 update, right? So we're trying to upgrade to NATS v2 for some performance enhancements and of course be on a supported line. The major issue is that v1 NATS nodes do not talk to v2 NATS nodes. And so during a deploy, this causes split brain, and split brain can cause all types of failures that you don't want. So I guess where we're at now is that we've decided the path we want to take and we're starting to execute on it. So nothing's released yet, but the path that we're taking is basically deploying a NATS release with the code for both v1 and v2, and then on some kind of trigger, like restarting them all as v2. So starting them all as v1 and then restarting them all as v2. So hopefully to avoid that split brain issue and to do like a clean cutover. But we're working on seeing how we can do that with the least amount of operator, effort. So it should just work for the operator is the goal. So still working on it. Next on the agenda, I had this PR about returning a 503 and not a 404 when an app was down. This has been such a common complaint. And I'm so excited that someone submitted this PR. So hopefully it'll be in soon. So I just wanted to highlight it. Right. I'm sure you've all had an app that, like, you know, something went wrong, a Go router pruned it. And because it pruned it, now there's no more apps running. And so it deleted the pool. And so, you know, you might get a 404 once and then you get a 50. No, you get a 503 once and then you get a 404. And then as Diego starts it up, it goes back to the 50, you know, maybe it's crashed. Anyway, it goes like back and forth between these status codes in a confusing way. And so someone who I don't recognize, Loadfi, has worked on adding some properties. Yeah, that basically sets a timer that says, hey, you know, leave it returning, you know, that 503 for a little bit, you know, for some time, and only prune an empty pool after this amount of time. And so hopefully this will help decrease that kind of flip-flopping back and forth between the status codes. Just some exciting community work that I wanted to call out. And I see some people have added something to the bottom of the agenda. So, Carson, was that you?
It was all me, but you know, other
Go
people
for it.
can
Take the
talk
floor.
about it. Some folks have been working on adding more comprehensive GitHub actions to some of the repos, or like experimenting with it, I guess, to try and get more visibility into unit tests on the repo. Since we're an open source organization, all our repos are open source, and it's totally free to do this. So most of the logging and metrics repos have now been updated to run unit tests and go vet on PRs and on main branch pushes, which is pretty cool. Turns out there were actually a few race conditions that we weren't catching previously because, you know, most of our test code was old. There's a lot of go vet stuff that we fixed. And there was a few of our unit tests actually depended upon like a certain RAM size, interestingly. GitHub Actions requires, like, only gives you I think it's like a 2 GB, 4 GB memory, 2 GB RAM, like container to work with. So it's pretty small relative to Concourse. That's been interesting. We also tried to standardize our like repo settings and pull request templates across repos to try and bring like a little familiarity to all the various repos. So anyone going to a different one, and branches, so that you can go to a different one and like know that the main branch is the main one. There's no develop branch. There's no like release candidate branch. It's all main. And release branches start with V. Pull request template gives us a little more information when we're evaluating pull requests, which is nice. The last thing is Go 118. Their pipelines have automatically bumped most of the repos to actually start using Go 118. Doesn't seem like there's any problems with that so far, except for some weirdness around go getting broke some stuff. Like you can't go get anymore. And weirdly, if you don't have the Git CLI available, but there's a .git folder that can break your Go build now. So that's been a whole thing, but it actually is going pretty smoothly, and we might have most logging and metrics repos at Go 118 soon. It's just it's moving a lot more quickly than anticipated, so I wanted to shout that out so that folks know that that's coming. So yeah, I think the big concern is maybe log cache with the memory management changes in Go 118. We'll know about that soon. Looking into it, doing some testing.
Yeah, that's awesome that you're bumping already and looking into it. Now that it's finally out. any other topics that anyone wanted to bring up today?
SAP, we started like analyzing some repos about security issues. Most of them will be solved by bumping the Go version, I guess. So thanks, Carson, for and the teams for doing that work. And what we did next was that we're planning to revive the Postgres Bosch release so that it will be up to date. And currently we're also doing some load tests after the split of log aggregator load tests after the split of Doppler and Locash to separate VM instances. We'll come up with some results soon. I would say like next week or two. Yeah.
Great, you can share them at the next one. Yes, our working group forum is a welcome to anyone, no matter how young.
Let's go. Carson, you said that Go version 1.8 might cause some problems with the log cache. How come? Like, what do you expect there? Like, to happen?
Well, fingers crossed, nothing. But, or I guess in the best situation, we actually get better memory management in log cache. There was a major change to garbage collection in Go with 118, where it monitors the stack as well as the heap. I think it was the stack as well as the heap, and like triggers collection more frequently. Since log cache is like a very memory heavy application with some history of memory problems, we were a bit worried about it. So we're having a deeper look before we actually manually pinned it back to 117 for now to make sure it doesn't auto bump before we can have a look at it. But most likely we find that there's nothing wrong. Just being a little overly cautious.
Yeah, it'd be great if it helped. But yeah, good to look into it.
Yeah, the log cache by itself, it's an interesting piece of software because it does lots of things, and apart from the memory usage, it also needs like more CPU now. As move to Syslog, to the Syslog and the Syslog nozzle now, which are feeding the log cache itself. So during our tests, we've also noticed some increase in CPU usage as well. Yes.
In the new log cache VM.
In the new cache, yes, and on the Diego cells also, because now the Syslog agents are more active. It can happen that the forwarder agent, the Syslog agent, and the log aggregator agents are fighting over CPU cycles. So,
Interestingly,
but it's an expected thing practically to happen. So we have to scale up the Diego cells vertically, I guess.
Yep, absolutely. I think that was called out in some of the releases, maybe not as well as we should have, but yeah, that is part of the expectation. I didn't know about the CPU raise in log cache, so that's interesting. Someone actually did a pprof review of forwarder agent fairly recently and discovered that or I think it was forwarder agent, may have been one of the other agents, the like major drain on CPU was actually marshalling and unmarshalling the protobuf files. And it was happening like twice and in like a not so great way. So I think there's some investigation to be done about whether we could reduce that time. possibly just a protobuf bump, possibly the recompiled files that we pushed recently will fix it. We'll still waiting to see.
Mhm.
I did my best to record all of that in the notes. If I got something wrong, feel free to edit it. Does anyone else have a topic that they would like to bring up? Okay then. Well, it was great seeing all of you. Apologies again for the delay. And I look forward to seeing you all next month. Have a great night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Fair day. Bye bye.